Hey everyone, Dave Kaminsky here from Web Video University. Two video cameras, a Sony RX100 Mark III and a Canon Rebel T5i. All right, what's the same about them? What's different about them? Is one camera better than another? Why am I even making a video comparing these two guys? Well, I'm going to cover all that in this video. So why these two particular cameras? Well, it's because when you're shopping for a video camera within a certain price range, is these two cameras that you're likely going to see coming up again and again as the recommended cameras to use. And I wanted to give you a real world look, the good, the bad, and the ugly on how these cameras perform for the average person who is making web videos for their business. Now let's talk about what's the same between these two cameras. But first, if you're wondering, why am I using the Canon T5i when the new T6i just came out? That's because for the purposes of this video, it makes absolutely no difference which version you have, and actually the T5i is going to be cheaper. But what is the same between these two is going to be basically the price. They're each going to run anywhere between $700 and $800 US depending upon where you buy them. And that might vary a little bit depending upon the lens that you get with the Canon. Now, both of these cameras shoot video at a quality or a rate of 50 megabits per second. And that's really high quality, almost broadcast quality. And that's actually very unique for a little compact camera like this. Both cameras have articulating screens. With the Canon, it flips out to the side. And with the Sony, it pops up for the ultimate in selfies. Both cameras feature autofocus during video, and with both cameras, you can either look at the LCD screen when you're shooting, or you can look through the viewfinder. The Sony has a little pop-up viewfinder right here. So what's different between these two cameras? Well, first up, the Canon has interchangeable lenses. You can pop the lenses out, use different lenses, while the Sony is a fixed lens. It's attached just like that. The Sony does not have an external microphone jack. You cannot plug an external microphone into it. The Canon has a touch screen. Okay, on the back of the LCD screen, you're going to touch it to do everything, while with the Sony, everything is done through buttons. It is not a touch screen, but really the biggest difference between these two is that the Sony is a true pocket camera. This guy will literally fit in your pocket. You can carry it with you anywhere. The Canon, not even remotely close. So first up, let's take a look at how these two cameras perform in natural daylight. So this is the Canon T5i in your typical everyday natural daylight shot. The camera is on full automatic mode. It's making all the decisions, and I'm facing a window, so all the light in this room is just completely natural, and it might change a little bit because clouds are going by. We can also go ahead and test the autofocus on the Canon by moving back and then moving forward again. And it's important to note that what you're seeing here, this footage is raw out of the camera. I haven't touched it up at all. However, if I spend a couple minutes in video editing software, this is what the footage could look like once I touch it up a bit. And here's the same thing with the Sony RX100. Now the framing of these shots will be a little bit different because these cameras have different size sensors, but it's basically going to look, pretty much the same. So what I can do now is I'll go back and we'll test the autofocus on the Sony. How's it doing at keeping up with my face? And again, what you're seeing right here is raw footage out of the camera that is completely untouched. But again, if I spend a couple minutes in video editing software to clean things up, this is what the footage could look like. This is the Canon T5i in what we'll call professional lighting. The camera is in full automatic mode, making all the decisions. And basically for this shot, I've got this backdrop behind me. It's essentially a sheet hanging on the wall. And then I've got one professional video light next to the camera. It's a big softbox light, just one light. There's no other light in the room. And what you're seeing here is raw off the camera without me touching it up at all. However, if I spend a couple minutes once again in video editing software, this is what the footage could look like. Same thing, but this time with the Sony RX100. And if you haven't figured it out yet, because the RX100 does not have a microphone input on it, I'm not using a microphone. You're only hearing audio from the camera's built-in microphone. But the footage that you're seeing here is raw straight off the camera. The camera is in full automatic mode. But if I take a moment or two to clean it up a little bit in video editing software, this is what the footage could look like. Now this is what I call a realistic low light test. By realistic, we're not shooting in pitch darkness. No one does that. Instead, I'm in a room where it's pretty low light. So low that if I tried to read a book, I would probably get annoyed and my eyes would start hurting and I would quit. The footage you're looking at is from the Canon T5i. It's in full automatic mode and I have not touched up this footage whatsoever. Same thing, but this time with the Sony RX100 cameras doing it all. I haven't touched the footage. Now, beyond just how light or dark the image is when you're comparing the footage between these two cameras, you also want to pay attention in low light stuff when it comes to how noisy or how grainy the footage looks, and am I in focus or am I kind of fuzzy? Those are the things you want to look for with low light performance. Now, the one thing that I can't show you a comparison on is slow motion video, because only the Sony RX100 does it, and it actually does a fantastic job of shooting 1280 by 720 HD video at 120 frames per second, as you can see here. Okay, so what's the bottom line here? Well, I think for most people in most situations, the Canon is going to be the wisest choice. It just gives you the best looking video, and in a variety of situations. Plus, the footage from it is more editing friendly than the footage from the Sony. The Sony is more of a run and gun style camera that you just kind of always carry with you, maybe when you're traveling or you're out and about, but you're not necessarily expecting to shoot video. Okay, if you have any questions, which I know people always do about video cameras, go ahead and leave them in the comments below, and please, it would really help me out if you would subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.